Somebody what?
My daughter's passed out. We're doing mouth to mouth. Please get here quick,
okay.
please.
Okay. All right, we're going to. How old is your daughter?
She's 30. Please hurry.
She's 30? Okay, she's with you now?
Yes, there's someone coming.
Yeah, ma'am. You don't have to yell. We're going to send somebody out there, okay?
On the morning of December 20th, Brittany was found by her mother in her bathroom.
An anguished Sharon Murphy calls 911.
Okay, so somebody's doing mouth to mouth?
Yes.
Okay.
But Brittany cannot be revived.
Actress Brittany Murphy died today, apparently of cardiac arrest after being found unconscious.
When I heard Brittany had died, the wind left my chest.
Her death at the age of 32 is stunning. Autopsy results point to several factors.
According to the Los Angeles County Coroner's death report, there are 3 different causes listed as her primary cause of death. One was pneumonia, one was iron deficiency anemia, and the other was multiple drug intoxication.
The drugs in her system are consistent with over-the-counter and prescription medications. But rumors of drug abuse, rumors that had dogged Brittany through much of her career, refused to go away.
There was a lot in the press, oh, she was on drugs, or she was, taking all these drugs, and oh, she was doing this and this and this, and it wasn't true. Brittany was very against drugs.
When her husband Simon Monjack dies 5 months later in the same house, the speculation and rumors that followed Brittany's death escalate.
Highly suspicious that Brittany Murphy and her husband died within months of each other of the exact same cause.
Some of the questions surround Monjack, who married the twice-engaged actress 2.5 years earlier. They seemed an unlikely couple, and their marriage surprised many.
That morning, she woke up, she couldn't breathe. She went out to get some air. Sharon followed her out. I'll say this, because I know you can't. She said, Mom, I'm dying, I love you.
Mom, I'm dying, I love you. She knew she was dying.
This is about an hour before.
You didn't want an autopsy at first?
No, I didn't.
Are you a religious Orthodox Jew?
I was. So
Orthodox Jews don't want autopsies, right?
It wasn't that. I mean, there was this woman who just lost her daughter, who to us, it was such a shock. This pristine body that was curvy in all the right places, and the skin like silk. And how could I say in front of her mother, cut her up?
I mean, it was just
what kind of insanity is that?
So what did they do?
They cut her up anyway. But that's fine, because that's the law. The 32-year-old dies without any illness, and we want to know. We spent many...
So you're conflicted. You don't want to cut up, but you want to know. You want some finality, right?
Well, yeah, but at that moment...
our wife and daughter just died, and they said we're going to do an autopsy. We're not androids.
No, do you want an autopsy?
In January 2010, just a month after Brittany died, he appears alongside her mother Sharon on NBC's Today Show. He blames Hollywood for his wife's downfall.
Hollywood is a village, and once you upset the villagers, they talk, and they gossip, and they rumor, and they have blood on their hands, and I hope they wash them with very hot water, because the way they treated Brittany Murphy when she was alive was terrible.
Rumors and blacklisting started by Jeff Quantinance, her ex-fiancé, and Harvey Weinstein. She wouldn't sleep with Harvey, and he always held a grudge and aimed to destroy her reputation.
But what's more important now is her legacy, is the legacy of a young woman who dreamed of changing the world. Welcome you to my house. But you thumb here, and
Then 2 months later, Monjack invites Radar Online's cameras into the home he and Brittany shared, and the unshaven and disheveled widower gives a tour.
couple of thousand pieces in all. We have, what do we have? Matthew Williamson dresses, but there's just so much of it.
Simon gave a very bizarre tour of the house.
Here is where the money's made.
People never really understood why he did that.
This is the camera system. It's actually 56 cameras that cover the house, inside the house, outside the house.
He looked disheveled, he was sweaty, he looked sort of out of it. Nobody understood why he was doing this.
Yeah, these are pictures I took of Brittany. This was actually the picture that we used as at the funeral, framed by the funeral home in the sort of final bow.
He clearly was in a very, very dark place in his life.
Along with the tour, Monjack sits for an interview where he explains his motivation.
You know, and I'm sure people are going to say I'm doing this interview for attention. Not really, you know. I've had enough attention. I'm doing this interview because there needs to be a record of the truth.
Publicist Roger Neal, hired by Monjack after Brittany's death, witnesses the widower's declining health.
The last time I saw him, we were meeting, and, you know, he'd be talking to me, and all of a sudden he would just drift off he was sleeping. He was ill. Sharon said he had the flu. He was sweating profusely, coughing, and I didn't know I was watching someone die in front of me.
Simon was physically not in the best shape of his life. He was overweight. However, nobody thought he would die.
But 2 months after giving that on-camera tour, he did.
The husband of actress Brittany Murphy has been found dead just 5 months after her own passing.
It was a marriage between a fading young star and an unknown screenwriter with a checkered past. Now, just 5 months after Brittany Murphy's tragic death from pneumonia and drug intoxication, her husband, Simon Monjack, has also died. The 39-year-old was found unconscious Sunday night in the same Hollywood Hills home where Murphy had gone into cardiac arrest December 20th. Ironically, Brittany Murphy's mother, Sharon, discovered the bodies of both her daughter and her son-in-law. Rumors about Monjack flew at the time of her death. Some charged he was partly responsible for her stalled film career, that the two were involved with drugs, and that he had a criminal past as a con man. Last December, Gerald Posner talked to The Early Show about Monjack's past.
Yeah, this is a guy, as a matter of fact, who, you know, was arrested on immigration charges a month and a half before he married Brittany in 2007. Some people thought he had married her to stay in the country.
Monjack suffered a heart attack just 2 weeks before Murphy's death and recently had complained of seizures.
Some tragic news out of Los Angeles, where the husband of the late actress Brittany Murphy was found dead in his home.
When I got the phone call, I was definitely in shock because I had just been with this man for 6 to 8 hours earlier, and I was in disbelief. I'm like, well, Simon's dead. That's impossible.
The Los Angeles coroner performs an autopsy, and the findings are surprising. Some of the causes of death were the same for Brittany.
According to the LA County Health Department, the cause of death for Simon was 2 things: an acute pneumonia and a iron deficiency anemia, very similar to his wife.
Monjack is found by Brittany's mother, Sharon, who lived with the couple in Brittany's Hollywood Hills home. The sudden death of actress Brittany Murphy, followed by that of her husband 5 months later, stuns the entertainment community. But no one is more devastated than Brittany's mother, Sharon Murphy.
I felt very sorry for Sharon. When I think of her, I think of somebody who's sad. Over a year that I dealt with her, she was just sad.
Reeling from the double loss, Sharon once again contends with speculation that Brittany and Monjack abused drugs.
We're going to ask that the media be as respectful as possible. She needs her privacy at this time.
In July 2010, after the coroner releases the report about Monjack's death, Sharon issues a statement saying, "Just like my daughter Brittany, there was no kind of drug overdose." Initially, Sharon Murphy dismisses any connection between the deaths of Brittany and Monjack. When rumors emerge alleging toxic mold killed the actress, Sharon calls them baseless. But she later files a lawsuit that suggests she has changed her mind.
Sometimes people who are overcome with emotion and grief express that in the legal system.
An earlier claim brought against the builders of the Hollywood Hills home for construction defects was filed before Brittany died and was ultimately settled. But 2 years after Brittany's death, Sharon sues the attorneys who had advised her to settle, because by settling, she lost the ability to ever sue the construction firm for wrongful death. the entertainment media jumps on the story and reports the new lawsuit means that Sharon now believes in the toxic mold theory.
She ended up suing her lawyers, claiming they weren't honest and upfront with her about the nature of the action against the home builders.
That lawsuit is ultimately settled and the terms are not disclosed. Meanwhile, a figure from Brittany's past emerges. Angelo Bertolotti. Sharon and Bertolotti divorced when Brittany was only 2. In January 2012, a little more than 2 years after his daughter's death, Bertolotti, dissatisfied with the coroner's explanation, sues to obtain Brittany's hair and tissue samples. Almost a year later, in November 2013, Bertolotti reveals that an independent laboratory found what it called high levels of 10 different heavy metals.
He claims the results showed that lots of foreign toxins were found in her body, including some toxins that are often linked to those in rat poison.
Bertolotti goes public with his findings and makes a bold claim on Good Morning America.
I have a feeling that there was a definite murder situation here. Yeah, it's poison, yes, I know that.
He intimated she was poisoned on purpose.
Her father made people very nervous.
Probably because he was in the mafia. A.J. Bertolotti was torn from their tight-knit family as he made man with the Italian mafia.
I find it kind of disturbing that this man had to fight for years to acquire samples from his own daughter's death for testing. I don't know the standard procedure for these type of things, but that's kind of alarming.
Today, new shocking allegations coming from her father, who says she was poisoned. And Murphy's father, Angelo Bertolotti, and family friend Julia Davis are joining us now from Los Angeles. To the both of you, thank you so much. I know this is difficult. I'm sorry for your loss. We appreciate you being with us because this is really shocking to a lot of people, hearing that you believe that she was poisoned. Mr. Bertolotti, why do you believe that? Why do you think that she was poisoned?
Well, it's very suspicious, and I read the reports on the toxicology reports, and everything sounds very, very, very more or less suspicious. And I feel she was poisoned. There's no question about that. And I feel she was murdered.
Julia, was there something specific in those reports that he's talking about that leads you to believe that it was poison and not natural causes?
Yes, from the very beginning, AJ always believed that there was something very odd about Brittany's passing, and then reviewing autopsy reports, we could see that there were multiple symptoms that would usually go with poisoning, and then the test results confirmed that, where the lab found 10 heavy metals in very high quantities. So we do believe that it was poisoning, and we would like to have it properly investigated, since the coroner never tested for poisons originally.
Well, that's pretty shocking. Angelo, do you suspect somebody responsible for poisoning her? And who?
No, I don't. I don't suspect anyone. Actually, I do really, but I rather not speak about that. The question is, the fact is that she was poisoned and she was murdered.
Several forensic scientists counter that the substances likely stem from hair dye. The Los Angeles coroner declines to reopen her case.
The coroner put a statement out saying that they stand by their findings.
Brittany's mother also disagrees with Bertolotti. In a letter to The Hollywood Reporter, she writes in part, Angelo has shown he only wants to trade on Brittany's life, career, and good reputation, even at the cost of putting a cloud over her memory.
Test results reveal that Brittany retained extremely high levels, up to 9 times over the limit, of 10 different metals. Here's what Bertolotti said in a letter to the Huffington Post. Since the autopsy narrative recorded a number of symptoms synonymous with poisoning, I requested testing for heavy metals/toxins. My suspicions were confirmed. 10 heavy metals were found in abnormally high quantities, as much as 9 times over the high limit designated by the World Health Organization. These types of heavy metals/toxic elements are commonly found in rat poison, pesticides, pesticides, insecticides, etc. Since neither Brittany nor Simon would have willingly consumed any such substances, the lab concluded that they may have been introduced by a third party with criminal intent.
The actual report from the lab said if we were to eliminate the possibility of a simultaneous accidental heavy metals exposure to the sample donor, then the only logical explanation would be an exposure to these metals administered by a third-party perpetrator with likely criminal intent.
This is the post-mortem report of Brittany Murphy. And if you know how to read it, it pretty much tells you the whole story of her life, but in particular, the days and hours leading up to her death.
Hollywood is mourning the death of one of its own. 32-year-old actress Brittany Murphy died Sunday morning after paramedics were called to her Los Angeles home.
But what makes this case particularly unusual is the fact that I'm investigating not just one death, but two. Because her husband died approximately 5 months later on of the same thing.
Fact is, she was poisoned. That was it. I was in Las Vegas at the time it happened, and I got a call about 4 o'clock in the morning from her that she was being watched. The last 2 days, you know, somebody was like stalking her.
I have here the toxicology report requested by Brittany Murphy's father. There's silver, there's arsenic, and there's a number of heavy metals which are commonly present in the body in trace amounts. But in this report, it shows that in the hair, they're present in high amounts.
We had some very prominent doctors on this case, and she was poisoned.
Now here's where it gets even more complicated. I'm going to use a couple blind items. They weren't revealed. They were revealed on Anti Lawyer's Patreon podcast. I won't use it, but I will use the information. For $5 a month, it's definitely worth it to me. June 6, 2012. Today's blind items. She always believed them. This actress was a solid B-lister, and for a time, even considered an A-lister. She had her own movie once or twice, even though they were small. That is not how she's best known, though. At her peak, she made her living being the co-star, and like many actresses, she fell for her co-stars frequently and to her peril. There was never a time when she got involved with her co-stars that she was not used and thrown aside when the men were finished with her. Her most famous co-star is probably reluctantly an A-lister. He used to have sex with her in the morning and then go out and have sex with other people in the afternoon. There is one time she said that she is pretty sure he called while having sex with another woman, but she always took him back until he found someone more famous and he didn't want to come back. Another co-star, who is more celebrity than an actor she fell for, didn't even pretend to have any feelings for our actress. He would put her down in front of her friends and would send her to the bedroom and tell her to wait while he hung out with his friends, and he would go in and have sex and then just come right back out. If he was finished with her for the night, he would send her home. She always came back, though. Another co-star who actually did treat her right gave up because our actress lost interest to another B-list actor who would yell at her and make her cry, and she could just not get enough. The point of that blind was just to show that Brittany got treated like shit by most of her boyfriends, but not the first one, Jonathan Brandis. Now, for this to make any sense, we have to pause and take a look at what happened to him through a revealed blind item. Thursday, June 21st, 2018, today's blind items, the first one. There have been a lot of suspicious suicides of celebrities as of late, but there was a first that started this whole thing over a decade ago. A film was being made overseas, and several of the actors in this movie that was supposed to be a big box office hit took advantage of their position as stars with the local female population and also threw around enough cash to the local police where nothing was said or done about their activities. One of the worst offenders was an A-list, mostly movie actor at the time, foreign-born, and was really kicking it into gear. There was another A-plus lister on the movie, and a future A-minus list, mostly television actor. They went after every female teen in the town where they were filming. They didn't care how old, and whether it was completely voluntary. One actor who didn't participate was at the time probably B-minus list, and fading. Because he didn't participate, everyone shunned him. They made sure he knew how things worked and basically ruined what was left of his career. Down the road, when he couldn't get a break, he threatened to expose what went on, and he suddenly suicided himself. No note. The only revealed part of this blind was Jonathan Brandis. But just take a guess. I can't help it. It says it was filmed overseas. The last few movies of Brandis' career were all filmed in the U.S., except 2. One was filmed in Mexico, and one was filmed in the Czech Republic. That movie was called Heart's War. Jonathan's scenes were deleted from the movie. The movie starred Bruce Willis, Colin Farrell, and Terrence Howard. That's my guess, at least. He was found hanging outside of the door of his apartment building. No note. So they all treated her like shit except Jonathan, and they remained friends, and it's supposed that they were probably talking around the time of that movie. And that always stuck with her, why Jonathan died. And she felt like she would be selling out her friend by not saying anything. So what happened? Brittany Murphy also did a little bit of yachting. Not a lot of yachting, but she did have one sugar daddy help out. If you're not familiar with yachting is a term for Z to C list celebrities who need money to supplement their incomes and in order to keep up appearances. They will go on a yacht, typically owned by a millionaire/billionaire, and do what said billionaire wants. Mostly sexual wants. The celebrity will also most likely be caught by the paparazzi on the yacht, and people will think that the celeb has paid, etc. For instance, the C-lister is yachting again to pay her bills and get the front page. Who was Brittany's sugar daddy? According to the podcast, it was Mohammed al-Fayed. Who the fuck's that? I didn't know either. Mohammed al-Fayed is an Egyptian businessman magnate. Fayed's business interests include ownership of Hotel Ritz Paris and formerly Harrods department store, Knightsbridge.
What hoopla! I mean, horse-drawn carriages and stunning designers' clothing and you know and being in a location where it's tradition. It is tradition, and I believe in tradition. No matter how frivolous and fun it is, I think this is absolutely fabulous, and it's so decadent as well.
Ready, darling? Brittany! Brittany!
Well, evidently, through the podcast you can listen to, Brittany was at one of Mohammed's homes with him. She overheard him on the phone, talking to a lawyer. What he was talking about was a slew of sexual assault allegations by very young teenage girls, 14, 15. And what she overheard was him saying, if we can just take care of this one, it will scare all the others, and they won't do anything. And she overheard that. She threatened to go to the police. He said, if you go to the police, I'll kill you. And that was in 2008. Mohammed does have a whole section of his Wikipedia dedicated to his sexual assault allegations. She saw Mohammed from like 2002 to 2008. She died 2009. She was getting money wired to her that whole time period. And that helped pay for the big house. That helped supplement the mother's hungry appetite for money. And her father thinks her mother is the one that did it.
Angelo, do you suspect somebody responsible for poisoning her? And who?
No, I don't. I don't suspect anyone. Actually, I do really, but I rather not speak about that. The question is, the fact is that she was poisoned and she was murdered.
Fucking stoned. I got